Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello to all. So today, yeah, we've been thinking lately basically to publish this video to everyone, so that is kind of a follow-up activities that we do in SITA, because I think from our records we have almost about 90% of our staff who have underwent active learning training. As such, I think it is very important for us to clear any misconception or any misunderstanding by basically sharing with you this video. So today I would like to share with you in terms of the G's of active learning. Um, but before we proceed with our what we're going to share, I want to ask you one question. What is the difference between both? No, both are knowledge, right? I know chemistry, it is a knowledge. I know my daughter, it is also a knowledge. But the way how we acquire the knowledge is different. For example, like usually we learn chemistry by entering the class. The teachers taught us. There is a teacher who teach us chemistry, teach us specific bonding, for example, what is covalent bonding, and we learn from that. And normally what we do, we will read, we listen to the lecture, and then we try to attempt some exercise, an example, and that is where we got the knowledge of chemistry. This is what we call as explicit knowledge, where you can get from all those kind of activities. But in terms of tacit knowledge, it is something that we get from our experience, where we remember the most. For example, like until now we can remember, even for me, I still can remember my daughter when she was born, and the situation during that time, what was happening during that time, I still remember vividly in my mind. And until now, I can remember how she grew up, what she's been doing at the 5 years old, what she has done at 7 years old, for example. But these are the knowledge that we gain from experience. These are the knowledge that we gain from tacit knowledge. There is no specific research showing that which type of knowledge is better than the others. But of course, the way how we acquire knowledge is different. But at the same time, I read a book called Boys Adrift, authored by uh, an MD, but a PhD holder as well. He mentioned that the way how boys and girls learns are different, and the way how he complained or criticized the classroom setting right now, which is very girl-centered rather than the boy-centered, because boys learns more on experience, on hands-on. That is explaining the reason why uh, some of the boys didn't want to read when they are being forced to. This is different story. But the thing is, how about we convert some of the ways to get the knowledge of chemistry from the tacit knowledge? So that is why it comes with what we're trying to do with the active learning. So active learning itself is basically, I would say that it comes from what do you call that? The cone of learning. Okay, this is introduced by Edgar Dales from 1969. What he's trying to highlight here is that after 2 weeks, we will only remember of maybe 10% of what we read. But when we start to hear, maybe somebody, instead of while reading and hearing, for example, you are using podcasts, and then you're reading the books, for example, maybe you can remember up to 20% of it. But when you start to trying to visualize it, maybe you try to put whatever that you read on mind map, for example, so maybe you can get up to 30% of what have you read. But when you start to participate in a discussion, you have a collaborative session, this is where you get more. So from what you read, you start to discuss with friends, with peers, this is where you learn more, and when you can remember more after 2 weeks time. So have you asked yourself, what have you read 2 weeks ago? If you ask me, I couldn't remember. But if I try, I discuss it with you, I discuss it with my friends, that is where I will remember more. What we're trying to signify here is that it's not that reading is not important. It is important. It is a fundamental, which means that everybody have to undergo this process. So even when we conduct active learning, we also need to force our students to read before they can become an active learner. The only idea of becoming active learner is that when they listen to the lecture in our class, they're just not sitting passively. They will know that in between maybe 10 to 15 minutes time, there will be some activities in between so that they can recap what they have learned, what they have listened from the lecture. So that is what is active learning all about. So why do we do active learning? Active learning in the real reason, there are many reasons actually for us to do active learning, but mainly it is a scaffolding process because we want our students to become a self-directed learner. What is self-directed learner? Is basically the students who are able to dissect, to extract, and to construct their own knowledge from their own reading, from their own understanding, from their own things, whatever that they do, they'll be able to get the knowledge by themselves. That is self-directed learner. But in our education system, for all this while, the students has been fed in by so many information. And we know that an information will not become knowledge if the students not using it. Something that is useful, something that can benefit, that can be used, is what we call as knowledge. Otherwise, it's just become an information. Therefore, when we start with active learning activities, this is we're trying to make them to ignite their thinking ability. So they know that apart from learning for the sake of exam, they will basically try to what do you call that? Internalize whatever they have learned deeply into themselves. But doing active learning alone, it is not enough. That's why I said it's just a scaffolding process. If we really want to make our students a self-directed learner for which they can learn themselves, there are other pedagogy that we can cover in order for us to what do you call it? To make sure that our students learn. For example, like we introduce as well flipped classroom. Where does the flipped classroom falls in? So it can falls in from either quadrant 1 to quadrant 3, where the students being exposed to the lecture prior to the actual class. They will go through the lecture, maybe in the video, maybe in the from the materials, and when they come into the class, they will do some activities that will make them remember. But importantly, if we really want to make sure our student to becoming self-directed learner, this is where problem-based learning comes in. Problem-based learning is a process where we give a set of problem to our students. So what they're going to do is they will need to go through the materials, for example, the videos, the lecture notes, the textbooks, and read it deeply so that they can understand and so that they are able to solve the problem given to them. And normally problem-based learning is being done in a group. So the students will have ability to discuss about what they have understood from the reading material that they have. So you can see that this is a practice of the cone of learning that we have discussed earlier. So this is the reason why we are moving towards this kind of pedagogy, because we really want to make sure that our students not only have ability to think better, but at the same time be able to nurture themselves, teamwork skills, and other values. So so that is why we start first with active learning. So how do we do active learning? You can join our training at SITA. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.